Good day everybody, RichieRich from the Guild of Near Protocol Philippines. Ito ako ulit at i-explain sa inyo about sa Near Academy sa Chapter 4 nito, which is entitled ay Near Environment. Ang difficulty nito ay 2/5, estimated reading time ay 6 minutes. At bago tayo mag-start dito, sabihin ko muna na mag-subscribe muna kayo at i-check ang aming previous videos kagaya dito sa Near Academy, which is ang previous videos natin dito ay 3 na dahil nasa chapter 4 na tayo. Sa mga hindi pa nakakapanood nito o nakakaalam sa Near Academy, please panoorin yung chapter 1, 2, and 3 about dito and other stuff sa Near Academy, which is about sa paras, our interviews, our educational videos, and etc. Yun lamang. So ulit, magsisimula tayo ulit dito sa Near Academy, which is ang isang maganda ulit na infographic. And so, it's always something to start in a new environment and you've decided to make the best of it. You are all set now. Let's go to work. You've got your first opportunity to show you know your stuff. Ethan is on vacation and he deals with the meme inventory. Could you cover for him? Start by getting familiar with the registry. So, ito na. Mag-i-start na tayo dito siguro. About sa, kung i-explain dito, kung ano ang layer 1, layer 2, or layer 3 mismo sa Near protocol. So, let's proceed. You can think of Near as an educational truth service that you add to your web application. The benefits of adding such a truth service to an app include handling money, ownership, and global user identity without banks, lawyers, or any other traditional intermediaries. Back-end development usually happens on a local machine and is deployed on a controlled server. Access to others is given through APIs, and the code and access are completely controlled by the server owner. So, ito yung mismong visualization ng mismong sinasabi ng text na yan. So, ito yung cover ng app layer, protocol layer, at runtime layer. Which is ang runtime, syempre ang code nito, yung kasama na storage at ang virtual machine. At ang protocol layer, ito yung P2P network. At ang app layer ay ang smart contract ng Near, ang app, ang block explorer, and Near wallet. Layer 3 app layer, your app backend plus front end ay under ng layer 3. This is effectively the services and the UI that people interact with. Front end and back end include all the high level libraries to interact with Near. The components enable communication with the Near virtual machine to execute code. The app layer interacts with the protocol in a standardized way, which we will cover in the next chapter. Communication between the app layer and the protocol layer is channeled through an RPC interface in Near. Layer 2 protocol layer. Ito naman, under dito ang P2P network components. And in layer 2, transactions and data storage are validated here via the Near consensus mechanism and added to the public ledger. This is done by the validator nodes in this layer. Near sits in between the app layer and the runtime layer and communicates with both other layers. Dito naman tayo, next sa layer 1, runtime layer, or ito ang virtual machine and storage. Layer 1 can be considered at the same level as the protocol layer. Every time a Near validator node validates a transaction, they read and write in the state storage and on the virtual machine. Layer 1 is often referred to as the resource layer because the real computations occur here. The Near virtual machine. Near virtual machine is a modified WebAssembly virtual machine to execute WASM bytecode instruction. All code running on Near must be compiled to WebAssembly or simply WASM. Currently, 2 languages are supported with custom SDKs to compile code into WASM: AssemblyScript and Rust. Any language that can be compiled into WASM could be used here as long it meets specific requirements that can be added through an SDK. Assembly script is an excellent for prototyping and quick results, while Rust is better suited for applications that might secure a lot of value. So, dito naman tayo sa transaction processing. Validator nodes run the VM and execute the operations. They take incoming transactions or storage requests and validate if they meet the requirements to be executed. Access control. If an account wants to call a function in a contract, it will send a request. The validator will check if the contract and the function exist, if they can be called, and if the account owner signed the transaction. If these requirements are met, it will spin up a VM and execute the call function and return the results. After the computation occurs, the VM is quit. Validators are also storage process transaction in the network. Validators are selected by the network for a certain time period and are required to be online for that period to process operations on the network. This ensures continuous operation for the protocol. Validator nodes rewards are adjusted based on the amount of stake and participation uptime. The rewards of the validator's nodes come from program new token emission, currently capped at 5%, and transaction fees from network users referred to as gas. Validator nodes are pseudonymous, and game theory is used to ensure that they run the code with good behavior with a staking process called proof of stake. In this process, they make a guaranteed deposit, a stake in near, which they will forfeit if they have operated improperly. This is transactions processing. Na-explain dito ang mga ginagawa ng validator nodes at paano sila nakakakuha ng rewards dito. Dito naman sa transaction gas, each transaction takes some amount of bandwidth to be included in the network ledger and some computation to be executed. These operations have a cost paid in gas, a small fee in near paid to the validator nodes. It is no different from a user perspective to paying a cloud subscription or AWS Lambda for each execution. The goal for gas is to represent a unified measure of resources spent to receive, execute, and propagate a transaction on default hardware. Computation CPU is a momentary resource spent on executing a transaction. The cost of each instruction is denominated in gas units. Bandwidth is usually measured in bytes, but in the near platform, it is converted into gas units using a simple coefficient of overhead which has been estimated on reference hardware. Alrighty, you've still got a hang of it. Awesome. We can start running some code through the near-CLI now. Interacting with the network via a terminal is simple and effective. So, dito na tayo magsisimula. At ine-explain na nito paano mag-run sa mismong network na near. So, dito na interact with the network from a command line. If we take this one step further, we can see some advantages emerging from this new service type. Since everyone can deploy scripts on near services that everyone can use, there is no need to register anywhere or ask for awkward API keys to get connected. You pay as you go, or if your users wish to let them directly interact with the codes and pay execution cost. Let us call the meme museum contract and see how many memes there are registered for exhibition. Since we are interested in calling a simple function and getting a quick answer, there is no need to build any interface. We use the Node.js based near CLI that provides a set of command line tools to easily create, test, deploy on the near network. So, ito yung mga process nito para makapag-deploy na script sa near network. Una, install ka muna near CLI. Ita-type mo lang npm install -g near CLI. Type in near prints a list of available commands. We are interested in near login to log in with our account, and near view to make a call our code and get amount of memes in the museum. Type near login. This will open your browser and ask you to log in to your account. So, pag tinype natin near print, automatically, pupunta tayo sa browser natin. Maglalagin tayo ng near doon. Ilalagin natin mismo yung near. Now the contract name is museum.testnet and the method is called getMemeCount. So type nearview museum.testnet get underscore meme underscore count. This will return you the amount of memes that are registered in the museum. So kung natatandaan yung previous chapter, which is chapter 3, gumawa tayo ng testnet account, yung mismong ilalagin natin dito. So katulad nga nito museum.testnet at kung ano yung ginamit natin last time. Congratulations, you just called a contract on near. So yun, ganoon lang kasimple para makagawa ng contract mismo sa near with just a simple of command lines. So ito yung mismong illustration nito kung paano natin ginagawa yun. Now, what happens when someone interacts with your contract on the blockchain? Invoking a contract method from a dApp will trigger a sequence of actions locally as well as on the near protocol. Your dApp uses near CLI to compose and sign the transaction that represents a function called transaction. The transaction is sent to the near platform through the RPC interface, which validates and verifies the transaction before routing it based on the contract account to the correct validator for processing. The runtime layer launches a WASM virtual machine. The VM loads the contract code to invoke the function identified in the transaction, reading and writing to state story as needed and returning the result of the function call. The blockchain layer routes the result back to the RPC interface to your dApp. So, ito yung nangyayari kapag mayroong tao mismo nag-interact sa contract mo sa blockchain na yung transaction masisend sa your platform through RPC interface na mababalidate nito at mabe-verify yung transaction bago ito mag-route. Yun. Base sa contract na account to the correct validation processing as it said nga. Yan. So, doon na tayo mismo sa exercise. At the museum, each meme is created by a contributor and can receive comments, votes, and donations. The contributor can call a release function to release the donation to any given address. The meme museum has an expert team that curates the most interesting memes and presents them in their museum. Yes, this is part of the job. So tayo na ngayon ay mag-proceed na dito. Use the near CLI view method to query the museum contract and report back the number of memes in the museum. So, pipili tayo dito kung alin dito sa mga multiple choices ang tamang sagot. So, just like in the previous chapters, bawal ko sabihin syempre ang sagot dahil lang ang first aid box. So, sana may clue kayo dito about sa tanong din sa exercise at banda dito. Kung alin dito ang tamang sagot. Ito ba ay just 1, 2, 3, or more than 3 number of memes in the museum. Nire-report back na number ng memes sa museum. So, sa mga tao na hindi pa nakapag-subscribe dito sa Nerd Protocol Philippines, sana po mag-subscribe po kayo at i-like ang aming video. Siyempre, i-share nyo na rin sa mga kakilala nyo interesado mag-aral na Web3 dito sa Nerd Protocol at siyempre mag-build na rin. So, I encourage all of you. So sana nagustuhan nyo itong video na to, or if you have any comments or suggestion about my video or our videos, please leave a comment below. So, yun lamang po. Maraming salamat.